Hi, I'm Eric Bolling in for Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight. Governor Mike Pence, the Republican vice presidential nominee, will join us in just a second. And there are many big developments in the presidential campaign to talk with him about, beginning with an Associated Press investigation finding that more than half the private individuals Hillary Clinton met with as Secretary of State were donors to the Clinton Foundation. The report adding fuel to Donald Trump's calls earlier this week for a special prosecutor to investigate Clinton and her family foundation during her time at the State Department. Now, earlier today, Clinton campaign manager Robbie Mook responded to the new revelations this way.
By our count, there were over 1,700 other meetings that she had. You know, she was Secretary of State. She was meeting with foreign officials and government officials constantly. So to pull all of them out of the equation, cherry pick a very small number of meetings is pretty outrageous.
Joining us now from Wilmington, North Carolina, Republican vice presidential nominee Mike Pence. Governor Pence, thanks for joining us. You heard Robbie Mook, their campaign manager for Hillary, saying, hey, there was cherry-picked data that the AP used. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Disagree? Push back?
It really is extraordinary, Eric, that this cascade of controversies and new emails coming out each and every day are continuing to give further and further evidence of a direct connection between foreign contributors and corporate contributors to the Clinton Foundation and access and special favors granted by the State Department. I mean, Donald Trump and I have made it clear that this evidence cries out for action. The Clintons should immediately shut down the Clinton Foundation, not just if she gets elected president. And frankly, the Obama administration should initiate an independent special prosecutor immediately to get to the bottom of what's been going on. I mean, this is really remarkable. Now, the Clintons have actually admitted that there would be a conflict of interest if she became president of the United States, to them accepting foreign contributions to the Clinton Foundation. But apparently, Eric, there was no conflict of interest when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State of the United States, involved in and directing all of America's diplomatic efforts. It makes no sense. No one is above the law. The American people have a right to know the answers and to know what was going on here. And Donald Trump and I are calling for immediate action by the administration to create an independent special prosecutor, and that would be the right thing for them to do.
Governor, why do you think there's not much of an appetite by the Obama administration and his Department of Justice to, in fact, appoint a special prosecutor?
Well, we just seen a course of conduct here. It was a couple of weeks ago that the latest tranche of emails came out that for the first time seemed to establish a direct connection between foreign contributors to the Clinton Foundation and access and favors by the State Department. And a day later, you remember, Eric, we found out that the FBI had actually wanted to initiate a public corruption investigation into the Clinton Foundation, but was shut down by other officials in the Justice Department or in the administration. That's exactly what the special prosecutor statute is for. If the FBI is unable to take action on this, then that's what you appoint an independent special prosecutor for. That's what Donald Trump and I are calling on, and I think millions of Americans would support that call, and we'll see if the president's willing to take the action.
Yeah, you know, President Obama early on, when he appointed or asked Hillary Clinton to join his State Department, said, "We want you to keep the Clinton Foundation business separate from the State Department business." Doesn't seem like they did that very well, did they?
Well, it's, you know, this so-called, separation or the wall between the State Department and the Clinton Foundation appears to be crumbling before our eyes. And frankly, Hillary Clinton's making light of it. It really is remarkable. The toughest interview she's done in a while was with Jimmy Kimmel, and she joked that her emails were boring. But Eric, this is no laughing matter. This is the kind of pay-to-play politics that the American people are tired of, and they deserve to know before early voting begins in just a matter of weeks what the truth of all of this is. And it's time for Hillary Clinton to come clean. It's time for the Clintons to shut down the Clinton Foundation. But more important than that, it's time for this administration to appoint an independent special prosecutor to look into what is increasingly obvious conflict of interest that existed between the Clinton Foundation and the State Department.
Conflict of interest is the nice way of saying possibly pay to play, possibly illegal activity. I'll tell you, in the corporate corporate world, if you were doing this as a board member, ingratiating, lining your own pocket on the basis of your work with the corporation, you'd get thrown out, maybe thrown in jail. Sir, I'd like to turn to the next topic.
But there was that other piece too, Eric. There was that other piece too that we just found out. The AP, I mean, hat tip to the Associated Press for finding out that more than half of the private meetings that Secretary of State Clinton held during her tenure as America's top diplomat were with individuals who had contributed, and interests that had contributed more than $150 million to the Clinton Foundation. I mean, that is just breathtaking, because you have to remember, your viewers need to remember, foreigners cannot contribute to the American political process. And so the idea that the foreign contributions to the Clinton Foundation gained access to the very office of the Secretary of State is I think, frankly, it's just shocking. The American people deserve to know what was going on.
I've been looking into the Clinton Foundation for a long time, and I'm telling you, this hook on this company called Teneo Holdings, you're going to hear a lot more about Teneo Holdings going forward, but boy, this is that wall you're talking about. They brought that wall right down. Teneo bridged the gap between those two worlds, and it looks to me very, very fishy, shady, shadowy. Sir, I want to move on to the next topic. Your campaign, Donald Trump has been on the campaign trail courting the African-American vote and the Hispanic vote. Let's take a listen.
To the African-American voter, great people. To the Hispanic voter, who have been absolutely treated terribly, I say, what do you have to lose? What? I will fix it. I'll be able to make sure that when you walk down the street in your inner city or wherever you are, you're not going to be shot. Your child isn't going to be shot.
Okay, Governor, what are you going for? What number are you looking for? I think you're polling somewhere around 8% of the black vote, somewhere around 22% Hispanic vote. What number do you need?
Look, Donald Trump has made it clear that he wants to be president for all the people of the United States of America. His vision to make America great again, to make America safe again, to make America work again, is a vision for every American in every community, in the city and on the farm. And I got to tell you, I'm so proud to be standing shoulder to shoulder with this man who understands the Republican Party is the party of Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, led America through that great trial of the Civil War and ended slavery once and for all. It was Abraham Lincoln who championed the end of the abomination of slavery, and our party, I believe our party has to continue, as my hero Jack Kemp used to say, continue to reach out with that opportunity vision to every American. I mean, whether it's African Americans or Hispanic Americans, everybody wants safe streets, they want good schools, they want more jobs, and Donald Trump and I are going to fight to bring that to every community.
There was a marked pivot, maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, where he turned it to focus to African Americans and Hispanics, maybe with this somewhat of a softening position on immigration. Where did that come from? Who generated that pivot?
Well, I can tell you the person running Donald Trump's campaign, the person writing Donald Trump's speeches is Donald Trump. I mean, what you get from Donald Trump, and I just saw it here in North Carolina today again, Eric, is he has made a connection with the American people like no one in my lifetime since Ronald Reagan. And it's because, quite a contrast with Hillary Clinton, he's a truth teller who speaks straight from his mind, straight from his heart. And so I know many of the pundits and the political class want to see some sort of strategy that's at work. What I can tell you is Donald Trump is speaking his mind straight to the American people. They hear him loud and clear, and I truly do believe the momentum in this campaign is extraordinary, and it's going to carry us all the way to victory in November.
Now, we're going to leave it there, Governor. Before we let you go, I just want to point out to our audience, you're at Manufacturing Methods in North Carolina, tool and die company, a flourishing tool and die that started as a small business that expanded, and that's the reason you're there. And thank you very much for spending some time with us tonight. All right,
Eric, this is a great success story. Started with a guy with 2 employees, and we couldn't be more proud to be here.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you very much. Up next, reaction from the other side to our interview with Governor Pence, and later, is the FBI investigating the Clinton Foundation? We've got new inside details. Stay tuned. In the Impact segment tonight, reaction to our interview with the Republican vice presidential nominee Mike Pence. Joining us now from Washington, former Democratic Congressman Dennis Kucinich. Okay, Congressman, let's go. What do you like best? What didn't you like about what you heard from Governor Pence, the vice presidential nominee?
Well, first let me tell you what I did like. Once again, Governor Pence proved why he was chosen by Donald Trump. He presents himself in a very level-headed way. He explains things. He has a depth of knowledge of government, and he was a solid choice, and he continues to demonstrate that.
Okay, now let's talk about a little bit about this Clinton Foundation. He wants, and Donald Trump and Mike Pence are calling for the independent prosecutor to take a look. You know, that's aside from what the FBI may or may not be doing, but they want to take a look into the Clinton Foundation dealings. What do you think of the Clinton Foundation?
Well, first of all, the questions that have been raised about pay-to-play are questions that are of the public interest. They have to be looked at. They cannot be dismissed out of hand. But as far as the appointment of a special prosecutor by the president, you have to remember this. If the president appoints a special prosecutor, the president can get rid of a special prosecutor. I believe the Constitution was set up to handle this, and that Congress, in this case, you have a special committee chaired by Chairman Gowdy, the Government Oversight Committee chaired by Chairman Chaffetz. Those committees are set up to be able to deal with this and to go deeper into the probe. So I do not favor a special
Yeah, but when you
prosecutor.
get that, Congressman, when that happens, all of the Democrats and liberals say, oh, there's a Republican mob that's going after Hillary Clinton unduly.
No, wait a minute. We have a system of checks and balances, and we have a partisan system. I don't always like it, but I recognize it for what it is, and I think that the people who are in charge of those committees have the capacity to be able to look at evidence objectively for what it is. I do not want Congress to give up its authority to a fourth branch of special prosecutor.
Congressman, did the system of checks and balances check off or sign off on Hillary Clinton's ability to run the Clinton Foundation and the State Department at the same time?
Well, you could see that there was a responsibility that Secretary had to provide information. There's a question as to whether information was provided to the Obama White House.
Congressman,
yes, sir.
She got approval to do this by who? Herself.
Look, I'm not defending, to be very clear about this, that position that has been taken by Secretary Clinton cannot be defended, but what you can say, and this is the matter of import here, that a special prosecutor has a whole range of problems in our constitutional structure. I favor Congress doing its job, and Congress must pick up where it left off with this probe.
All right, let's move on. I think we're moving on. Okay, so on the black vote, I asked Governor Pence about Donald Trump's pivot to address the black vote. He has 8%. Now, unless my numbers are wrong, John McCain only pulled in about 4 or 5% of the black vote, and Mitt Romney 5 or 6% of the black vote. So Trump right now is polling better with the blacks than either of the prior two Republicans.
Well, African-American voters have a right to know what's going to be done with respect to creation of jobs, health care, education of the children, and frankly, if you look at the statistics in the last 2 years, there's been a massive transfer of wealth away from most African-American families, principally because of the subprime meltdown.
Under President Obama, the first African-American president.
Well, it happened, period. And why did it happen? The subprime meltdown caused a diminishing of the wealth of African-American families who had their wealth stored up in their homes. And so I can tell you from Cleveland, where I'm at, Cleveland area was devastated by the subprime meltdown, where no-doc, low-doc loans were proliferating, banks were cashing in, and neighborhoods later on were devastated. Well, Donald Trump should be speaking to that. And as someone who's challenged Wall Street in various ways and doesn't get along very well with Wall Street, he may be in a better position to address some of those economic issues.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Next on the rundown, Donald Trump says he's open to softening his immigration stance, but is that a smart move for his campaign? That debate upcoming. In the Unresolved Problems segment tonight, Donald Trump's stance on illegal immigration.
Is there
really sort
any
of
part of the
unfair.
law that you might be able to change that would accommodate those people that contribute to society, have been law-abiding, have kids here? Would there be any room in your mind, or you, because I know you had a meeting this week with Hispanic leaders.
I did. I had a meeting with great people, great Hispanic leaders, and there certainly can be a softening because we're not looking to hurt people. We want people. We have some great people in this country. We have some great people in this country. So, but we're going to follow the laws of this country.
With Trump indicating his position may now be softening, will it help or harm his campaign? Joining us now to analyze from San Diego, syndicated columnist for the Washington Post, Ruben Navarette, and from Chicago, Steve Cortes, a member of the Trump Campaign Hispanic Advisory Council. Ruben, your thoughts on this, let's call it a softening. I'm not sure what it is. Actually, I'm not even sure what he's proposing at the moment, but your thoughts on the fact that if he does, in fact, propose a softening, letting some stay, taking the criminals out, it's good idea or bad idea?
Eric, good to be with you again. I think it's a nonsensical idea. I don't think it's going to make a difference one way or another because the opinion of Latino voters is set in concrete with regard to Donald Trump. I think he's destined to get 20% of the Latino vote if he's lucky. He has so much offended and insulted this community. They're not going to forget it come Election Day. And they will not give him credit for any,
how did he
quote,
offend the
softening.
Latino community?
Okay, in a couple different ways. First of all, right out of the gate, in his announcement 14 months ago in June, he called my Mexican grandfather a criminal and a rapist. He said that Mexico does not send its best people, it sends criminals and rapists. There was no mention in that phrase, go look it up,
I
in that
did look it
announcement
up.
about
I
illegal
did look it
immigrants.
up. And in fact, what he says, and there are some good people too.
Eric. So my
In
grandfather,
that
who came
very
legally, was
first
also lumped
comment, he
together with
said,
everybody else.
and there are some good people. Ruben, here's my point. It seems like he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. You didn't like the fact that he said, let's put a wall up, keep Mexicans out, and then now he says maybe we'll soften that, but that's not good either.
So I didn't take a position one way or another on the wall. My position had been basically, if you want to build it, fine. People will build tunnels, they'll go buy ladders and get over the wall. That isn't really the issue. I don't think Latinos are terribly offended by the wall. They were offended by his characterization of criminals and rapists. They were also offended when he went after the Mexican judge who was U.S.
In the Factor follow-up segment tonight, the growing controversy around the Clinton Foundation with new questions about access and pay-to-play allegations. Hillary Clinton's most diehard supporters are using grim rhetoric to defend the foundation.
The Clinton Foundation was taking no money for the Clintons, raising money from rich people and giving it to poor people. And all of a sudden, the press has decided that we're going to go after this and shut it down. And you know what? You're probably going to be successful. And they're going to be people that are going to die because of this.
Joining us now with reaction from Tallahassee, Peter Schweitzer, the author of the big bestseller Clinton Cash, now out in paperback. Peter, James Carville said people are going to die if you shut down the Clinton Foundation. True or false?
Well, I mean, James Carville, with all due respect, doesn't know what the Clinton Foundation does. First of all, it doesn't give money to poor people. It gives money to highly paid consultants who are on the Clinton Foundation payroll. Second of all, his claim that the money doesn't go to the Clintons, it does, indirectly. I mean, Bill Clinton wrote a book called Giving a few years ago, which was about the Clinton Foundation. He took the advance, which was about $1 million, for himself personally. And third, to the point that people are going to die, that is ridiculous. Clinton Foundation has done some good things. There are lots of other charities that are doing better things, and I think dollars will be better spent in other charities than at the Clinton Foundation.
Now, Peter, we've heard a lot of the stories, some of the things that are going on, some of the things that the Clinton Foundation has done, pay to play, who knows, illegal, who knows. Do you think the FBI is investigating currently, and do you think there should be a special prosecutor?
Well, I don't know the exact status of what the FBI is doing now. I will say that earlier this year, at their request, I sat down with two people from the Bureau to talk about some things related to the Clinton Foundation, specifically things that were in Clinton Cash. And there's no question in my mind, based on that conversation, that they had an advanced knowledge of the Clinton Foundation and some of these issues. I do think that given what we've seen with the Department of Justice, the fact that they basically have squelched previous investigations, the fact that you've got the Attorney General sitting down with Bill Clinton, who would be the subject of this kind of investigation, leads me to the reality that the Department of Justice is not going to allow any kind of fair investigation to take place. So I think we unfortunately don't have another option. We've got to have somebody with subpoena power, somebody with law enforcement capability, but they have to be independent of the Department of Justice because it's been too politicized.
AKA a special prosecutor. I want to drill down into this Teneo Holdings. This sounds really, really strange to me, Peter. Shadowy consulting firm, almost like a broker. They were setting up deals for Bill Clinton's speeches, which happened to the value, the price of his speech skyrocketed under Hillary Clinton's State Department. Also, Doug Band. This guy, Doug Band, of the Crown Prince of Bahrain, dropping $32 million in the Clinton Foundation, getting access. That Doug Band arranged that a little bit. Huma Abedin had ties to both Hillary Clinton's State Department and Teneo Holdings, and Bill Clinton was a top-paid advisor to Teneo. What's this group Teneo Holdings all about?
Well, it's a great question, Eric, and there's a lot of mystery there because unlike the Clinton Foundation that, of course, has to file tax filings, 990s with the federal government, Teneo is a privately held consulting firm. And what we know is, like the Clinton Foundation and the State Department, there was this massive blurring of lines between the two. The same is true with this consulting firm. I mean, Abedin at one point was on the payroll of the State Department, the Clinton Foundation, and Teneo Holdings all at the same time. Doug Band, who is connected to the Clinton Foundation, helped set up Teneo, which of course puts Bill Clinton on the payroll. So it's all a mishmash. The reason we have ethical rules and laws to create clear lines is precisely to avoid conflicts of interest and corruption. And this is precisely what the Clintons did, is they blurred the lines where there are supposed to be clear lines.
You know, corporations sometimes do that. They'll take a holding company, they'll throw it overseas, and do business through that, so it kind of shields the business from the American and the SEC. In fact, Teneo, is this a similar example of this? I mean, they're literally selling access through Teneo of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, and what I would ask people to do, Eric, is go look at their website. I mean, the website for this consulting firm is we open doors, we help get access, we help make things happen. And where are they set up? They are set up in political capitals around the world, and it is populated not so much with entrepreneurs and businessmen, but with ex-government officials that have relationships in their relative countries.
Yeah,
so it's a classic example of influence.
We got to go, but I find it wildly interesting that they started doing business, not when they were founded, but when they started doing business, 2009. Guess what year Hillary Clinton started being the Secretary of State? 2009. Peter Schweitzer, thank you very much. Directly ahead, the Trump campaign.
And counting.
Thanks for staying with us. I'm Eric Bolling, in for Bill O'Reilly. And in the personal story segment tonight, the final sprint of the 2016 presidential campaign, one of the Republican National Committee's top stars is joining forces with the Trump campaign to try and score victory in November. Joining us now from Washington, that top star, Sean Spicer, Chief Strategist and Communications Director for the RNC. Spicer, spending more time in New York. What you doing?
Yeah, I'm going to spend more time in New York, but I'm still a Sox Patriots fan.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think that'll change.
You can't divert the attention from the question was, what you doing over Trump Tower so much?
Well, look, we're in the final 75 days of this campaign. What we need to do is make sure that our forces, our team, whether it's the data team, the digital team, political or finance and communication, are all in sync so that up and down that ticket, we're ready to go and make sure that the contrast is known between Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, and the rest of that down ballot ticket.
Okay, so are you the guy walking down the hallway, and as they see you come, they slam the door, here comes Spicer, quick, here comes Spicer, close the door?
No, I'll tell you, I was up there earlier this week. I'll be back tomorrow. The enthusiasm and excitement that's on the floors of the campaign staff is unreal. Everybody's excited, I think, and really fond of the direction that the new team is taking this thing in. So I think the candidate, you've seen it, the best 2 weeks of this campaign are happening right now, and coincidentally, the worst 2 weeks of the Clinton campaign. This is going to be a dogfight coming down to the final 75 days, and I feel really good about where we're headed.
Yeah, Sean, I find it very interesting that you're right. I think Trump has really turned the corner here. He's resonating. And also, Hillary Clinton has been literally non-existent for the past 5 or 6 days. I mean, Donald Trump has been to Louisiana. President Obama has been to Louisiana. She's been raising money.
Right. I mean, for all the criticism that Donald Trump gets, let's look at her schedule. Beverly Hills, Greenwich, Connecticut, Cape Cod, Nantucket. I mean, there's not battleground states. I understand there's a lot of money there, but she's kept a low profile. She hasn't talked to the press or haven't given a press conference in 263 days. These revelations that keep coming out, they send out these spokespeople that can't answer the question and try to deflect and continue for the 30-year talking point of the Clintons about how it's a far right-wing conspiracy. But the fact of the matter is, one of the emails comes out, has from the Crown Prince of Bahrain, talks about that he couldn't get a meeting through official channels of the State Department. They pushed him over to the Clinton Foundation, and lo and behold, for $32 million, he got to meet the secretary. So, I mean, this is literally the definition of quid pro quo, pay to play, insider access. The Clintons have one set of rules for themselves and one for everyone else, but this idea of enriching themselves continues. You know, Eric, it was funny. I never can forget Hillary's quote about how she was dead broke when they left the White House. So without doing much of anything, they're now worth over $110 million and oversee a foundation of $2 billion. So it sounds like that they've done pretty darn well trading off this access to government.
Yeah, Sean, is it typical for the RNC to start to work that closely with a campaign? Does this always happen?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. We had a few staffers that worked out of Boston last cycle. McCain had a similar thing, although his headquarters was in Arlington. But absolutely, and under this chairman, I think we've been committed to making sure that we have the strongest team out there. And again, we've got teams that are embedded with their digital team and their data team. Fundraising's the same way, and our political operation, the ground game that's been better than it's ever been before, is a hand-in-glove operation to make sure that from the top of the ticket, and Donald Trump and Mike Pence, all the way down to people that are running for local office, we've got the strongest ticket, strongest data digital operation, strongest ground game.
Are the we'll call them the Washington insiders, the establishment type, are they on board with what you're doing?
Well, they better be, because this is what's going to propel us to victory. And I think once we continue to have more and more weeks like we've had the last two, and Hillary's, you're going to see continued. Look, the erosion in the poll is largely the Republicans. And as they come home and they, number one, I think for a lot of these guys, see that we're going to win, and number two, hear about more of these vision policies that Donald Trump's laying out every week. He's talked about taxes. He's talked about national security. As he continues to lay out that vision and more people come home, not only the poll's going to close, but I think as we head in and out of September, it's going to be a dogfight with Trump up.
All right, last thought. Kellyanne Conway, Steve Bannon, you like the team?
I do. These guys, I'm telling you, you watch, not just talking to them personally, but when you're around the team that they're running over there, people are inspired, they're invigorated. The enthusiasm that exists around the staff because of these two individuals is unbelievable. They have inspired these folks to get out there, double down on their they're already working 24 hours, but they're going to squeeze every second out of them because people know that these guys have a plan to win. They're looking at the campaign from bottom to top, making sure that every second that Donald Trump and Mike Pence are out there is the most effective use of their time, and it's very, very strategic in how we get to these battleground states and get the 270 plus votes that we need in the Electoral College to win.
We're going to leave you there, and I look forward to seeing you at the hot dog cart over there on 49th and 6th Avenue. See you there Thursday or Friday. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Eric.
Up next, Donald Trump ramping up efforts to court African American voters. Is it starting to pay off? We'll be right back with that.
Whether or not you want to be part of the bigotry that is Donald Trump. You have to decide whether you want to be part of the sexism and misogyny that is Donald Trump. You have to decide whether you want to be part of the bullying that would allow him to make fun of one of my disabled colleagues at the New York Times. You have to decide that.
Joining us now with reaction, Monica Crowley and Ebony Williams, both are Fox News contributors. I don't even know which one to start with. Monica, okay, so Donald Trump, according to Charles Blow, Donald Trump is a bigot, but if you're a supporter of Trump, you're a bigot too.
Well, it's an outrageous statement, but we've heard this across the board from people who support Hillary Clinton, people in the Democratic Party, people on the far left, and people who represent the elite mainstream media like Mr. Blow. What they are trying to do is discredit Donald Trump. This is one of the most vicious smears against Donald Trump, and he's been subject to a lot of them. This is perhaps the most vicious one, that he is some sort of racist and bigot. And if you support Donald Trump and his platform of essentially America for restoring America, bringing it back to its foundational principles of economic liberty and enforcing borders and fiscal responsibility, that somehow that makes you a racist. It is incredibly irresponsible. And what they're doing is not just smearing him, but they're smearing the millions of people who support him and what he represents.
Yeah. Ebony, Monica points out, mainstream media. He works for the New York Times. He's also, I believe, a CNN contributor. Should he have such a hardline stance on Trump and supporters?
Well, Eric, to my knowledge, Charles Blow is an opinion editor at the Times, and he's also a contributor and a commentator. So I think that's part of his job description, to have a strong point of view, and I'm not particularly upset by that. I also think Charles, in that segment, Eric, was talking about a theory that he has, that Donald Trump is not talking to the black community at all, actually. He's talking about the black community, but he's not talking to the black community. And there's actually some facts that I think can make many people... Why do you say that? Well, because many of these speeches that Donald Trump has given recently, and I submit they're good speeches with good content to them, but they're to almost all white audiences. So, and that's an issue. Let me just
push back a touch.
Sure.
You mean the people sitting in front of him at the time he gives this speech?
That's correct.
Not the 5 or 10 or 15 million people who are watching on television, cable networks
That's correct,
everywhere?
but let me tell you why that part matters. Because, again, what you're saying is important, but who you're saying it in front of is actually important too. And I think the black community wants to see Donald Trump, if he's at all sincere, and I'm not saying that he's not, but then take those opportunities to go to the National Black Journalists Association, the NAACP, places where he has been invited because they actually want to hear the message.
Monica?
Donald Trump deserves a lot of credit for even beginning this conversation about what has happened in the black community over the last 50, 60, 70 years. When he points out urban centers like Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, that you just see the wreckage of liberalism that it has inflicted in terms of crime, poverty, poor education. What the Democratic Party and the left has done to the black community over the last, almost century has been a crime against humanity. What Donald Trump is trying to say is, look, I don't expect to build Rome in a day, but I'm trying to get a message to the black community that, look, we've tried it their way. Look at the wreckage. Look at the misery of this community. Try something different.
What the hell do you have to lose? Not a bad message.
Well, some people say it is, Eric, because they would say, I've seen people on social media say, well, how about my self-respect? Here's where they're coming from. I agree with you, Monica. Those are strong critiques of failed policies that have not served the betterment or progress of the black community, and that's absolutely a conversation we have to have. But that's half of it, right? The other half is Donald Trump convincingly and compellingly talking about how he will be a change agent in a particular way. And he's got to, I think, if he's going to address those, Eric, he's got to talk about the Central Park Five. He's got to talk about the housing discrimination suits and kind of clear his own record on these issues.
Well, it also needs to be not just a hit and run. You know, Republicans often get criticized. They'll make a speech like this once, and then they back off and they don't press it, they don't pursue it. If Trump is serious about starting to turn this around, and again, Rome not built in a day, okay? This is like trying to shift a battleship in the ocean, because the Democrats have indoctrinated the black community for 70, 80 years. So those attitudes are really deeply entrenched. But if Donald Trump can reach 10, 12, 15% of them, he could make a real difference. Maybe not in this election, but he could start to make a real attitudinal shift in the black community. But he's got, to Ebony's point, he's got to go into the black community. He's got to go into these cities and make these speeches.
And that sounds low, but it's high compared to Romney and McCain.
You've got to start somewhere, I agree. And to Monica's point, it's a heavy burden. It's heavy lifting that Donald Trump or any Republican would have to do at this point. But I think you're right. It's not so heavy and onerous that you should ignore it or abandon the mission. That's important, and I'm happy to see that.
As Donald Trump points out, we've pointed out on Cash In 100,000 times, under President Obama, even the first black president, poverty in the African-American community has gone up. Unemployment in the African-American community has gone up. Wages have gone down.
Those are legitimate questions.
What the hell do you have to lose by trying something new?
Is Donald Trump the answer? And I'm not saying that he's not or that he is. But right, but since he's the one advocating for the votes, he's got to make that argument.
But that brings up his policies, and when the people say, well, how are you going to address the issues of crime and poverty and poor education? He's talking about school choice. He's talking about tax reform, like Jack Kemp, talking about urban centers with tax relief to get blacks to start small businesses.
If he talked about that, though, if he talked about school choice and tax relief and entrepreneurship at the Journalism Association for Black People, at these events, I think that's a different thing.
So location.
Real estate, baby. Matters.
Monica Ebony, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
When we come right back, the Late Night Comics getting a buffet of material from the presidential campaign. Don't miss it. Before we go tonight, Hillary Clinton's campaign is having a rough week, but that's making things easy for Late Night Comics.
After spending around $10 million on ads during the Olympics to reach a broad audience, Hillary Clinton is expected to spend a significant amount on airtime during NFL games this fall. And just to cover her bases, she's also starting for the Giants.
In a new election bombshell, the State Department has been ordered by a federal judge to produce nearly 15,000 of Hillary Clinton's unreleased emails. Right now, I don't want to say Hillary is worried about this story blowing up, but today she asked Ryan Lochte to make up another robbery.
And that's it for us tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Eric Bolling, in for Bill O'Reilly, who I'll now channel when I say be sure to check out my bestseller, Wake Up America. And also, please remember the spin stops right here, because we're looking out for you. Right here, right there.